Alright, pulling this centrifugal clutch here, we'll grab a 27mm socket, and it is dented here to hold that nut on. So you'll have to use a high impact wrench, a strong impact wrench, and this is reverse threaded, so you got to turn it clockwise to loosen it. So we'll turn it clockwise to loosen it, and that nut will come off, and you'll be able to pull this centrifugal clutch out. You can see that it's moving there. There we go. Just get it started and it'll come off of there. So we're going to pull this sensor here, and then we will flip this motor over and pull the flywheel off. There's a sensor here. There's also a sensor on the top here. The gear position sensor. $14mm socket for the sensor up top. And then here's a 14mm bolt that holds a spring and a ball in there. And we'll have to remove that at some point. But for now, we'll flip this over, we'll remove the flywheel, finish removing the cam chain. So we've got our puller set up here. Run 3 bolts down into the flywheel. Tighten them up about the same depth. You want to make sure they're threaded all the way through. And then take and pull this flywheel. Go and slam on the end of it. A lot of times that'll break that free, pull it up. We'll take that puller off, and then we put that, remember we put that nut back on that crank so that puller didn't damage those crank threads. So we will have to loosen this nut again. Pull that nut off of there. Now this flywheel is ready to come off of here. Pull this. This keeper here is what's holding this gear on. Sometimes if those keepers are turned right, it will not. You'll be able to slide everything off, but we'll go ahead and pull that keeper. Here's your starter gear here, another idler gear. Your oil pump gear here, we got your counterbalancer here, and the oil pump chain here. Flatten this keeper on this counterbalancer here. There's also a keeper on this oil pump gear. And then a 14mm to remove that. Now hold that crank from spinning so it doesn't damage that case. Pull the circle up here. Here's a shift mechanism, and we will pull that as well. And the dipstick here. We've got threads to clean out. Allen bolt here. Pull that dipstick. We'll do these 4 8mm bolts here. Pull that. That gear stayed in there. That's actually the output. And then this gear here. I guess we'll pull it now. Lift right up there. So those gears mesh together. We'll actually sell this as a set here. Pretty common problem when you're jerking on that shifter to break some of those pieces in there. A lot of times these are not easy to pull off here. Sometimes they separate like this one's going to do. Sometimes they come off altogether, which is ideal, but in this case, these springs There's a pin in every other one of these springs. So make sure we don't lose those pins. But what we're gonna have to do is wait until we pull that crank, then we will put that gear back together. It's a little more challenging to do it now. Again, remember there's pins going through these springs. You can see them here. And make sure those go in every other spring when you're putting those back together. We'll grab a large socket to pull that off. And this will be a little bit harder now to keep this from spinning without breaking a finger. So I'm going to put pressure here. You do not want this to slide if you have your screwdriver held in like that. That's just a regular threaded bolt. Pull that off. Both of these sprockets will come off of here with the chain. Here's your keeper here. And we'll finish pulling that guide off. Then we'll be able to pull that cam chain off. There's the other guide for the cam chain. This keeper will have to come off here. If you don't do it now, when you split that case, it'll hold up this set here. So make sure that take that off now. And then what we're gonna do now is pull the 8mm, a couple Allens on the back here. We'll pull those and start splitting the case on this. Loosen up 3 Allens here in the back. Flip this motor over to see if there's any bolts on the other side. One clear down in there. Clear down in here. Alright, we might be getting close to getting those all out of there. Take a rubber mallet and just tap on it. If it breaks free, then you know you got them all out. And put the case in a way that most of the parts will stay in either the top or the bottom. So in this case, when I'm starting to pull it, I see the crank staying on this half. So far, you can take a mallet, continue to put pressure between the cases, just kind of tap on it. Alright, that case is set. Output shaft, your bevel, get your transfer gear here. Here's your oil pump, obviously oil filter, crank balancer here, crankshaft, shift drum here, shift forks here. So different gears here, main shaft. Let's see, some of these are held in by bolts, so what we're going to do on this output here, we're going to loosen this, take this coupling off. And this is the front coupling. And here there's 4 12mm bolts. That's going to allow us to take this off, but I'm going to take the coupling off here first. slide that off, and I believe front and rear are the same on those couplings. So we got all 4 of those 12mm bolts off. What I like to do now is maybe actually put this alright, that pushes that out. Now these 2 gears are going to be sold together. So you've got 4 Allens that come apart there. Now this gear does not actually come out through the back. What I'm going to do is pull this seal here.